opportunity. I have all the strength I need to succeed. I have the strength I need. I am grateful for all I have. I am grateful for my life. I am grateful for my health. I am grateful for my desire. I am grateful I was born with fighting spirit. I am grateful for my strength. I will use my strength every day. I will use my spirit every day. I will give my all every day. I am determined. I am willing to sacrifice. I am willing to go the extra mile. I will go the extra mile. I will do whatever it takes. There is nothing I cannot have. No one I can't become. I have no limits. I will achieve whatever I set out to achieve. I will achieve my goal. I see my goal clearly. I know when I will achieve my goal. I know how to get there. I will achieve my goal. I will be great. I have set the date. I will not be late. I will be great. I have limitless potential. I have all I need inside me. I have opportunity. I have all the strength I need to succeed. I have all the strength I need. I have limitless potential. I have all I need inside me. I have opportunity. I have all the strength I need to succeed. I have all the strength I need. I have limitless potential. I have all I need inside me. I have opportunity. I have all the strength I need to succeed. I have all the strength I need. I am determined. I am willing to sacrifice. I am willing to go the extra mile. I will go the extra mile. I will do whatever it takes. There is nothing I cannot have. No one I can't become. I have no limits. I will achieve whatever I set out to achieve. I will achieve my goal. I will do whatever it takes. I will do whatever it takes. I will be great. I have set the date. I will not be late. I will be great. I am a winner. I am a fighter. I am a beast. I am a machine. Success is mine. There is no doubt. It is mine. I will.
All right. I believe with that, we are ready and fired up for the class. The takeaways from the video. Please, if you're having challenges with your audio, just type in, you can't hear me. So the takeaways from the video, my major takeaway is that whatsoever you set your mind to do, you can achieve it. You are the only one that can stop yourself. You are born with everything that you need to succeed. You are born with everything that you need to be whoever you want to be. So the decision is yours. So let us put on, we all have the fighting spirit, and I believe we can achieve it. So let's go back to the assignment I gave. I gave us 3 questions, and having reviewed our responses, well, some of us did extremely great, and I must commend your efforts for that. I'm very, very impressed. Some got some, didn't get all, and then a lot of people didn't do at all. But I want you guys to pay very close attention as we go through the revision. So the first one, the question says, a ladder 6 meters long leans against a vertical wall at an angle 53 degrees to the horizontal. How high up the wall does the ladder reach? Now, if you look at the steps, if you go through the steps I gave you in the first class, I said the first thing is for you to get the diagram right. And the truth is, if you don't get this diagram right, there is no way you will get the question. You will get the questions right. Now, I want us to look at my diagram. There is a wall, and the wall we were told, is leaning against, there's a ladder, excuse me, and the ladder is resting against a vertical wall. So you can see my ladder, you can see the vertical wall, and you can see the horizontal. So the length of the ladder is 6 meters, and the angle that the ladder makes with the horizontal, if you look at the question very well, the question was specific, that the angle that the ladder made with the horizontal is 53 degrees. Some of you, while doing yours, you put your 53 degrees at where I have my W. That is not correct. So I hope this diagram is clear to everybody. You can see my ladder, you can see the vertical wall, and you can see the horizontal, and you can see the positioning of the angle and the positioning of the length we want to find. So from this diagram now, they said, the question says, how far is the ladder, how high up the wall is the ladder? So we want to find the distance between the end of the ladder on the wall and the ground, which from the diagram is represented by our WL. So after you've drawn the diagram, we identify the right angle and every information that you are given. So what are the given information? We're given that there is a ladder. The ladder is 6 meters long. We're also told that the angle that the ladder makes with the horizontal, please, that is very important. The angle the ladder made with the horizontal is 53 degrees, which you can see from my own diagram. Then we were told, we were required to find how high up the ladder will reach. That is, if you look at the point where the ladder is touching the wall, which is our W, and L. So we want to find the distance between this W, where the ladder is touching the wall, and L, which is the horizontal ground, which we represent by WL. Now, if we look at this diagram and you look at the angle and the length we have and the length we want to find, we'll discover that the ladder is representing the hypotenuse side, while the vertical wall, because the vertical wall is facing the angle that we know, then the vertical wall is our opposite. So that is what I've put there. The ladder is facing the right angle, so its length is the hypotenuse side. The height that the ladder will reach against the wall, that is W, which I've just also explained, is the opposite to this angle of reference. So we have hypotenuse and we have opposite side. So if we look at our trigonometric relationship, trigonometric functions, opposite and hypotenuse, that is sine. So we'll use sine. Thus, we have hypotenuse and opposite, meaning that we'll use sine. Now, so in the right angle triangle, sine 53 degrees, sine of this angle is equal to the opposite side, which is WL. You can see the opposite side, WL, divided by the hypotenuse, which is WF. The hypotenuse, which is WF. And we know our WF, the hypotenuse, which is the length of the ladder, to be 6 meters. And that is the 6 we are having here. So in the same thing, we use our calculator to find what is sine 53 degrees. I want to believe we all know how to do that on our calculators. Sine 53 degrees, if you press your calculator or you use your mathematical table, you will get 0.7986. So our 0.7986 will be equal to WL over 6. Now, the next thing we do is we cross multiply. So if we cross multiply, 6, WL will come down, and 6 will go and meet 0.7986. So WL will be equal to 6 multiplied by 0.7986. If we use our calculator to multiply that, we will get 4.7916 meters. So the question did not specify to what decimal place. So even if you leave your answer at if you leave your answer at 4.7916 meters, you are correct. If you decide to approximate to 4.79, you are correct. If you decide to approximate to 1 decimal place, which will be 4.8, you are correct. And if you decide to approximate to 5.0, which will be to the nearest whole number, you are also correct, since the question did not specify the decimal place you should approximate to. And I think one or two other people also made a mistake in the units. Please, it is very important. It is very, very important, the unit. The unit of the question is meters. I think one or two people gave their answers in centimeters. So please, you need to be very, very, very careful about that. I hope that is making sense to all of us. All right, as I said, if you have any question, you can type it in the chat box. So if we go to then you conclude that our conclusion is thus the ladder will reach 7.9 meters up the wall. All right, so let's go to the second question. The second question says, if tan x is equal to 1, we are required to evaluate sine x plus cos x. If tan x is equal to 1, we are required to evaluate sine x plus cos x. Now, if you look at the diagram I drew, if you look at my diagram, tan is opposite over adjacent. That means that our opposite will be 1 unit and our adjacent will also be 1. That is why in the diagram you're seeing AB and BC, they are both 1 unit. But we don't know the hypotenuse. I put the value of the hypotenuse there because I had calculated it, but I will show you the calculation in a few seconds. So for us to get that side, why do we need to get the hypotenuse? The question is, why do we really need to get the hypotenuse? Because the question required that we find the value of sine x and cos x. The question requires that we find the value of sine x and cos x. And we know that for sine and cosine, we need the hypotenuse side. So if we use Pythagoras theorem, in line with so from the right angle triangle, using Pythagoras theorem, AC squared, which is the hypotenuse, this side will be equal to AB squared, which is this side squared, plus the square of BC. Now, if we put in the values of AB and BC, we have AC squared. Our AC squared will be 1 squared plus 1 squared. 1 squared is 1, so that our AC squared will be 1 plus 1, which is 2. Now, for us to find AC, what we just need to do is to get the square root of 2. So our AC is equal to square root of 2. Now, some people went ahead to get the decimal, to put it in decimal form. Fine, it's okay. It's perfectly okay. But I will decide to leave it in this form. And I want to assume that this is making sense to all of us. Now, from this diagram now, our sine of x will be, sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So the opposite is 1, the hypotenuse is root 2. So our sine x is equal to 1 over root 2. In the same vein, our cos x is adjacent over hypotenuse. Cos x is adjacent over hypotenuse, which also gives us 1 over root 2. So what we just need to do is just to put these two in. Cos x plus sin x plus cos x is equal to 1 over root 2, which is sin x. Our sin x is 1 over root 2. Our cos x is also 1 over root 2. And since the denominator is the same, we can go ahead and add the numerators. The denominators are the two numbers at the bottom of the fraction. Then the ones on top are called the numerators. So since the denominators are the same, you can go ahead and add the numerators. So 1 plus 1 will give us 2 over our denominator will still be square root of 2. Now, if you leave your answer like this, you are not wrong. If you leave your answer this way, you are not wrong. However, the invigilator or the examiner will require that you go ahead. There is a process in SORT that is referred to as the rationalization of the denominator. Rationalization of denominator. What it simply means is that we don't want anything that has to do with SORT in the denominator. We don't want anything that has to do with SORT in the denominator. So for us to eliminate that, what we simply do is we rationalize the denominator. And how do we do that? We simply multiply the numerator and the denominator by the denominator. That implies that we will say that 2 over root 2, which is our fraction, we multiply it by the denominator, which is root 2. We multiply the numerator by root 2. We also multiply the denominator by root 2. So if you multiply root 2 by root 2, root 2 times root 2 will give you square root of 4. And we all know that square root of 4 is equal to 2. Then multiply 2 by root 2. 2 multiplied by root 2 will give you 2 root 2. So our answer will be 2 root 2 over 2. But this 2 that is outside the root sign can easily divide this 2 that is our denominator. So that if the two cancel each other, we'll be left with root 2 as our answer. Therefore, sin x plus cos x. Sorry, there's a little error there. It should be sin x plus cos x is equal to square root of 2. Sin x plus cos x is equal to the square root of 2. So let me just quickly make that small amendment. So that should be plus. All right. Okay, I want to believe that we are getting value. So we go to the next question. Now, what is the next question asking us? The next question asks us that, they gave us that cos x is equal to 12 over 13. Cos x is equal to 12 over 13. So we are required to find 1 minus tan x over tan x. 1 minus tan x over tan x. In the same way, you see, as I told you earlier on, the process, the basic is the same. The fundamental is exactly the same. The fundamental is the same. Irrespective of how the invigilator or the examiner twists the question, once you understand the fundamental, I can assure you that it won't be difficult for you. So in the same way, we use the first information we have. You know, cosine, we know that cosine is a ratio of adjacent to hypotenuse. Cosine is ratio of adjacent to hypotenuse. But we want to find tangent, and we know that tangent is opposite over adjacent. So that means we need to look for our opposite side, and that is why we need the diagram. You can see the diagram here. You can see the diagram. The hypotenuse, that's 13. The adjacent to this angle X is 12. So we need to find the opposite, which is AB. In the same way, we use Pythagoras theorem. And if you recall, that was the reason why during the first class, I took us briefly through Pythagoras theorem. So from the right angle triangle, AC squared, which is the hypotenuse, is equal to AB squared, which is the opposite, plus AC squared. Sorry, that should be BC squared. That should be BC squared. So if we put in the values we know AC to be 13 and we know BC to be 12. We put it in the equation. So 13 squared would be AB squared plus 12 squared. So 169 will be AB squared plus 144. So if we rearrange the equation so that our unknown will be on our left-hand side, our AB squared will be 169 minus 14, which is 25. So AB, for us to find AB, we find the square root of both sides, which will give us the square root of 25, will give us 5. So our AB is 5. Thus, we can now easily get tan x, since we know the opposite now. So tan x will be 5 over 12. So what you go ahead to do now is that you will now, in this expression that we are required to find, you will put in the value of tan x, so that we will have 1 minus 5 over 12, all divided by 5 over 12. So that you have this, 1 minus 5 over 12, everything divided by 5 over 12. Now, there was someone who did it to this level and got the numerator wrong. Somebody did it to this stage and got the numerator wrong. So let me just quickly explain how you can get the numerator. Now, this one you are seeing here is a whole number, and this is a fraction. So this one, what you just need to do is to find the LCM. So this one will be 1 over 1 minus 5 over 12. So the LCM will be 12. So that you will have, once you solve the LCM, the numerator will eventually give you 7 over 12. So it will give you 7 over 12. So that we'll have 7 over 12 divided by 5 over 12, which is what I've just written out here. And you know, in the multiplication rule, if you are dividing fraction, you will change the division sign to multiplication and then invert the fraction towards your right hand side, which will give us so that will give us 5 over 12 multiplied by 12 over 5. So 12 will cancel 12, so that we will be left with 7 over 5. Now, if you leave your answer as 7 over 5, you are correct. If you decide to change your answer to fraction, you are correct, which is 1.4. Or if you leave your answer as one whole number, 2 over 5, you are also correct. I want to assume that we have gotten value, and for those of us who had who did not get 1 or 2 or everything correctly, I want to believe that now you are better, you understand better. So just go through it again, and I can assure you that you get it more. Then another advice that I will give you guys is for you to go back and rewatch the video. Go to the YouTube channel and rewatch the video over and over. Then pick up your textbooks, pick questions, try and solve as many questions as you can. And I give you this freedom, this opportunity, direct access to me. If there is any of the questions you pick and you don't seem to understand, or you don't seem to be getting it, you are free to chat me personally. You can chat me privately, and I will look at the question. You can also throw the question up in the group so that every other person can also benefit from it. So thank you very much.